Welcome to today's webinar event. We're here to talk about producing 1099s from church windows, either payroll or accounting. Okay, so of course, the big thing, folks, this year is e-filing based on the government's reduction from 250 total returns down to 10. So just by way of a reminder, as we've done on other past webinar events, that if you have 10 total returns, that doesn't mean 10 1099s or 10 W-2s. That means 10 combined total returns, W-2s or 1099s. You are now required to e-file, okay? I'm going to show you where to access those e-file functions in the church windows, in accounting and in payroll when we get to those screens. But once I show you where that is, I'm not going to show you any more than that. If you have problems and we're required to e-file and you're e-filing through Aatrix, we have been advised by those folks to e-file, to contact their technical support for assistance, whether it's trouble setting up an account or filing something or anything else. They've said, please have your customers and your users contact our technical support if they have any issues with our system. So we're going to hold them to that, and we're going to recommend that. Okay. So I'm going to show you some of those screens as they're coming up here during the process. As we were able to do last year, we are able to produce 1099s from either accounting or from payroll or both. Okay. But if you have paid a contractor, say in accounting, you're not going to be able to generate the 1099 for them in payroll. You're only going to be able to generate it for them through accounting. The same is true from contractors paid through payroll. Okay. If they were paid in payroll, you're not going to be able to produce the 1099 there. Now, there is a merge function that if you have contractors in both accounting and in payroll, that you're able to merge those two groups of 1099s together into one e-filing through Aatrix. Now, we're not going to go through that merge function today. We are going to have an event later on in the month of January here that does talk about merging those. But I'm just saying we're only going to show the way of and I'll show you where you can do it. It's not a terribly difficult process. I'm just not going to go through it in detail today based on our limited time. Okay. But I'm going to show just simply producing or processing of 1099s through accounting or payroll, but not merging them. Okay. Basically different records in different databases. Okay. The contractors in payroll are not the same as the contractors that are paid in accounting. Okay. So that's why you can't produce them one versus the other. You know, you can't do one, you can't produce them or generate or process the 1099s for both in either module because they're different. They're different databases. Okay. So also, finally, before we actually go into this in detail, folks, please make sure you're on version 25.23.1. For those of you that are on Church Windows Web, we know that you're on that. Okay. But if you're a local or desktop user and you do not have version 25.23.1, you're going to have problems and you're not going to be able to produce those forms. Not only that, you don't have the current year's or the new year's tax tables. So please upgrade to version 25.23.1. If you call me or any one of my technicians and are having problems processing 1099s in either accounting or payroll and you're not on the current version, that's what my developers and programmers are going to require. They're going to say, get them updated to 25.23.1. If they can't produce them then we'll do something to see if we can help. But you've got to be on the current version with the current right version of the software and this portion of this, okay? The processing of the forms themselves inherently is the same in both modules with one exception, okay? To process the 1099s in accounting, we go into the accounting module. Okay, I'm in my 23 year, oops, didn't mean to click on that. And frankly, it doesn't matter whether I'm in 23 or 24. I can go back into 24 and still produce my 1099s, okay, by going up to report/export and the little bust of Uncle Sam there, right? Tax. So when we click on that, it pops up and it starts doing Church Windows Payroll and it brings up the tax forms where the process or the interface with Aatrix begins. Okay. First and foremost important thing here is where you're going, oh, I don't see my 1099s for 23. Folks, you've got to choose the appropriate year right down here in the bottom center, okay? Once I choose 23, now all of my 2023 1099 options appear, okay? Folks, if your contractors are just standard regular contractors, you're no longer using 1099 miscellaneous. You're using the 1099 NEC or 1099 non-employee compensation. You choose that. There's no month or quarter. Reporting period is any. That's fine. Simply click print. Okay. When our contractors now pop up, okay, this is going to show us a list of any contractor that we had paid $600 or more in 2023. All right. So this is, you see this window here in accounting. You don't get this window here in payroll. Okay. But the same is true in terms of choosing the appropriate accounting year. The difference is accounting only has 1099s available. Payroll has 1099s and all the other tax documents and forms that you may need as well. Okay. Okay. So a few things about this. You're only going to, of course, put a check mark next to the contractors that you want to produce them for. Church Windows may know that they're $600 or more in compensation or in payments that they've received throughout the year, but it has no idea whether they should receive a 1099 or not. You need to know that, okay? Tax ID information is entered as part of the contractor information in the chart of accounts. So if I go to manage accounts here into my chart of accounts and I find, say, Clark's Organ Repair, go right here to the vendor payee tab, right here, name DBA, address information is entered, tax ID, okay? That information has to be entered there. Above and beyond that, even further is, it has to be entered in the year that it is for. So if I didn't have the tax ID set up for Clark's Organ Repair in my 2023 chart of accounts, it still would not print. Why, you ask? Well, because this year's chart of accounts in 24 is different from 23 from 2022, even though they may be identical copies of one another, okay? So if I had entered the tax ID just in 2024 for them, then not in 23's chart of accounts, that tax ID is not going to appear. I would have to go back into special functions, manage years, change back into 23, go to my chart of accounts, find Clark's Organ Repair. Okay, there it is. Go to the vendor payee tab and enter it down here. In addition to that, you also have to choose the type of ID it is. Is it Social Security number or is it an actual EIN? And then you have to enter the appropriate information. Many, it's going to be Social Security number, but somebody could be a contractor and have an EIN number. Absolutely. Okay. So this is where, under the vendor payee tab of the chart of accounts, all that vendor information is entered. Okay. Also, let me go in here to reports, tax. Let's go in here. And even while we're in 23, I just want to show we can still do this from here. Still shows 24. I have to choose 23. Okay. Again, here we are back to our list. So once you've checked a particular or selected your paid contractors, it shows the amount paid. Okay. If the amount paid is wrong, you do have the adjusted amount over here to the right. Okay. So if Clark's Organ Repair there was something else, there was a reimbursement or something that we had reimbursed them for, maybe the amount was $1,000 less for whatever reason. Okay, so I could enter the 554,321.21 if I wanted to show that is a different amount, override the amount that was paid. Again, Church Windows just populates with what they've been paid. It doesn't have any idea what should be considered reported compensation or not. Okay. Once I click OK from here, then it's going to begin processing the 1099s just like I would normally. Okay, so if I click OK through that, it does its gyrations here, and now it's going to pop up with the various screens that I'm now going to see here, and I've kind of gotten off track here, folks, a little bit in terms of the documents, but it does show on page 2 of the document there about where you enter that, address information, the tax ID, the tax ID type, etc. And it does show the adjusted amount there on that, on there. I kind of did that in the reverse order. I'm sorry. Okay. So here it is. We're just it's processing our 1099s now from accounting. So from this point, when I go over into payroll and do it from here, it's exactly the same. All right. Once it brings up the 1099 setup wizard in payroll, you're going to see the screens there are virtually identical. Well, we'll come back here and do this from accounting versus payroll here after we're done. I want to dive into payroll real quick here and just show you a few things. Folks, the tax ID information is required. Aatrix is really good about conflict checking, okay? Excuse me. If I go up here to employees, contractors, it opens up my contractors and employees. I've got my Bill Williams and Bill Williams and Sons Painting. I've got my other contractor, Joe Green Thumb, Joe Green. This is where I enter their tax ID information. Notice again, tax ID down here and type of TIN. Again, EIN or Social Security number, and the information must be entered. Okay. Address information is entered here and what have you. One of the main differences here in payroll when producing 1099s is that payroll will know when the contractor has been paid $600 or more. Okay. So if we go here to totals, Joe Green Thumb, we notice, has definitely more than $600, but when we go back to Bill Williams and Sons Painting, he doesn't have more than $600, and so Bill Williamson will not appear when I'm producing my 1099s in payroll to print a form. Okay, so the payroll software is a little bit smarter that way in terms of being able to know who should receive one and who should not. Okay, but when I go into report/export, tax reports, tax forms, again, similar window, got to choose 23. Here's all of my forms, including my 1099s, 1099 NEC, okay? So I choose that there. One of the things you must do, folks, here is you've got to provide contact information. So when you go to contact company info, you can enter that information here, at least name, contact person, and email address, okay? It will prompt you when you pop in or when you process the forms that you have to enter that. So if I choose 1099 NEC here, again, 23 in any reporting period is fine. Click print. It now pops up with my, again, choosing your desired form. And again, we're going to be doing this tomorrow for W-2s and W-3 as well. Okay. So now it's opening up our 1099 setup wizard, just like we saw in accounting. Okay. So we're not going to do the test drive. We're going to do no thanks, start processing my 1099s and 1096. Okay. So we're going to go to next. Then it asks us to verify our tax ID number. If that's wrong, you can change it. And you can, again, if it's an EIN or Social Security number, you just change it accordingly. But it's an EIN. Okay. So then we simply go to, and if it's wrong, you can change it here, or you can go back and change it under the system information for Church Windows. You definitely want to do that at some point anyway. Go to next. So here, now this, folks, is where you would merge files. So if I did have contractors that I was paying, that I was trying to generate or process forms, 1099s for from accounting and payroll, I would choose, yes, I use multiple 1099 data files. Okay, but we're not doing that today. And there's another one in accounting that would come up and do the same exact thing. Okay, but it warrants another 15 or 20-minute event, folks, so we're not going to cover that today. So just to produce the forms, just choose no using single data file, go to next. Here's where it asks us to verify our company information, payer info. Here's my contact info and my email address. If this were blank, it would ask me to populate that, and I can key it in right here. Okay, so I would simply go to next. It'll bark at me if it's wrong. And what I mean by wrong is empty, or there should be something there. So I am filing for my company employer. If you are a third-party paid tax preparer, you can choose that as well. But virtually most of you, if not all of you, will be I'm filing for my company employer. So we simply go to next. Now prompting to enter any state tax information if applicable. Again, folks, if it's required and you don't have it, it'll show up in red and it allows you to edit it and enter it here. Go to next. No local tax items. Okay. So then we would simply go to next. Again, if there was something there and missing, it would prompt you with that. If you have any recipients who have elected only to receive a 1099 form electronically, you would choose yes here. Many of you may not, or it's simply no, and that's for the purposes of our webinar, we're going to say no. Okay, so now we click next. Now here it's asking us how do we want to list the Social Security numbers, the tax ID numbers on the 1099 form itself. Do you want it complete? You want it truncated with asterisks or X's? Recipient identification numbers, typically you're going to go no, leave them blank. Not applicable here in most cases, if ever. So we're just going to leave it no truncation. We want to leave it fully, exposed there so they can submit it for tax purposes, but it's your choice. We're going to go to next. Now it's actually opening up the information in the Aatrix program now, okay, the interface, API, whatever you decide to call it. So here is our actual information from Church Windows Payroll in the Aatrix system, okay? W-2s are very, very, very similar to this, okay? And all those screens that I just went through were covered here on pages 3 and 4 on the document that we've attached, okay? So basically it's now just fed all the information as we have it into there. And we notice now Joe Green Thumb is the only contractor that's showing up here, right? Bill Williamson and Sons Painting Company is not here because he didn't receive wasn't paid $600 or more. So the payroll software knows that that's the case, okay? So a few things here. This is literally just clicking the next arrow, watching the prompts as they come up. As I click next, little green arrow pointing to the right, it's eventually going to come up and say, recipient first and last name required. This is something that we've learned after 2523.1 was released, and we didn't have time to get it written into that because we didn't get this information from Aatrix. But this information is required. So you would probably be best served to print out a list of your names of your contractors, first and last names, or at least how they're going to be addressed on the forms or should be listed on the forms before you do this, because I don't have a way to do this other than to correct it right here. But I think it's a good example of showing how if something's wrong, you don't need to go back out and correct it in Church Windows Payroll. If you know what it needs to be, you can edit it right here and complete processing the forms without having to go back and do that. So why am I going to start over when I can just fix it right here? So if I click go back and correct, okay, I can just put in here, click where it says last name, he said. Where is it? Let's try typing in there. There it is, Green. And over here to first name, Joe. Okay, so I've just keyed that in. But unfortunately, folks, because it's not there, we don't have a first and last name separated field in the payroll module or accounting at this point. In order to process these, you're going to have to key in these first and last names for your contractors right here. And the same is true in accounting. I'm sorry, I wish it were different, But if you've got that, you should be able to just literally go down the list and just key that in. Don't believe middle name is required, but once I've entered the missing information, I'm going to simply click Next. And we notice that the blue bar, verify recipients' names and everything, this little blue bar up here just kind of keeps moving left to right. So it's just doing a double check. So it just keeps moving over little by little. It's just double checking everything. And when I finally click Next, it now pops up with the Aatrix page. Okay. So if you need to, you can do the Aatrix offer from here, but I'm encouraging you all to look at what I'm about to show you here. $227 per recipient, etc. Here's the options you have. If we simply click Next, if you're not e-filing at all, meaning you've got less than 10 total returns, you're simply going to click Next here. You're not choosing anything other than Next, and here's why. When you click Next, here are your options for 1099 printing and filing options. It defaults to the complete 1099 e-filing service. And that means for $227 per recipient or minimum of $24.95, they're going to print and mail them to your contractors. They're going to only recipient copies, E1099 only. They're going to file the 1099 and 1096 for you, and any state applicable forms and any available for all recipients. And that's all included here. However, the other option you have is the one called Other Options here. Okay, so if you want to still send out all of your 1099s, to your contractors, you can choose this other option. And if you're not required to e-file, you can just choose Print. And here it is. It's talking about the IRS regulations on this. So going to click OK through that, and we click on State, and it throws up another message, about some states are requiring that these be done. So it's fine. You can still click OK through it. Okay. But now if I just choose to print those, well, you can do that. But you can also just do e-filing federal 1099-96 for 49 cents each, and e-file state 1099s and reconciliation forms for 69 cents per recipient. Okay. So you have options, even if you're required to e-file. So certainly 49 and 69 cents respectively. I do believe, though, that they still have the $24.95 minimum. Is certainly different than if, I'm paying $227 and $120 per recipient. So just be aware, you have options. Okay. So if you did choose to just e-file these, this might cost you less. But if we notice, even if I'm printing and sending them down here, it's still going to be $24.95. So it may be just preferable depending on how many you have, because if it goes up above the $24.95, they're going to charge you the per recipient price. Okay. So it still may behoove you to basically just have them e-file the federal and state forms, and then you send out the actual federal and state forms to your contractors. Okay? Your choice. You have options. I don't know what the bottom line cost on this would be. Okay? I don't work for Aatrix, so I don't know what what else they might be including in this. Okay? But if I did this, I'm sure it would probably open up and require me to set up an account information with the Aatrix program. I don't want to do that today. We're running out of time. So we're just going to uncheck that, and we're going to get those same messages again. All we want to do is print. So now notice no cost at all. We go to Next. We're not going to do the complete e-file services. We're going to go to Next, and it allows us to print the final form of what our forms are about to be printing. Okay. When I go to Next, it's now opening up the actual physical forms that I can print. Okay. Notice here in the upper left, report 1 of 3. Folks, look at this. Okay. That tells you exactly what it is. The form that you're printing on that yellow banner in the upper left is what I call it. When you call me on a support call, that's what I'll call it. Look at the yellow banner in the top left. It's on the federal copy. Aatrix, you do not need to purchase forms if you print the forms from Aatrix. They have permission from the government to have their recipients receive these paper copies, printed to plain paper. So I would simply click Print Final. Okay, says right here, the official red paper is no longer required. Federal 1099 NEC copy cannot be printed on perforated paper. Insert plain paper now. Yay. Click OK. Now opens up my printer and allows me to send that to my printer. Okay. Then I go to Next Step at the top. Now moves over to report number 2, Federal 1096 form. Okay. Same thing. Can be printed to plain paper. I go to Print Final. No longer required red copy. Click OK and print it. Okay. Then we click Next Step one last time. It now jumps over to the 1099 payer NEC copy. Okay. So then from here they are for Joe Green. He's the only one I've got. I can now print that to final and I can send that off to him if I wish. Okay. Or keep one for my purposes, what have you. Okay. When I'm finished now, I simply click Next Step and it says, would you like to print it? I say no, it doesn't matter. I can. And it's now underneath the actual history now. Okay. So incomplete 1099 recipient. I can actually do correct or completed, start over, e-file. I have options. Okay. I can reprint the completed forms if I wish. Okay. There are options. But now it shows up under 1099s here, history. So just an FYI again, in accounting, you're going to see that the windows are exactly the same once we get past that initial screen. Okay, so I choose 1099 NEC, click print. I check my contractors that I want, enter the adjusted amount if necessary, click OK, and the windows pop up almost virtually identically to what we had before. Okay, it's going to bring up, but again, these are contractors in a different database. Okay, Aatrix is really good at error checking for you. That's why it's beneficial to use this, folks. So we can do start over here, and this might have been the ones I tried to start earlier. So let's do start over. I have not. And here's what happens. If it looks like you've even done anything, it says, have any copies been distributed? If I say no, it'll allow me to take me back right to the edge again. Okay, so just a value changed in here. I'm going to click OK on there. No is yes. Again, their system, and here we are right back at the edge where we were before. No thanks, start processing my 1099s. Tax ID verification using single data file. Back to my thing. Now my contact information, sorry, I didn't meant to mention this earlier, folks. That information should be entered right here under contact and company info. Okay, we're going to just go ahead and process the forms like we would. I'll key. I just want to show you how we can key it in here. Sorry, folks, we're going to go a couple of minutes long here. This is nothing to be afraid of. This is just stuff that if you don't enter it initially, enter it when you're processing the form. Okay, just like we did. So single file, I can now come here and I can just key in Joshua and type in my email address. I think I can go right there. Oh, phone number is required. Okay, next. Back to filing for my company employer. No state tax information, no local information. If I had it, I could. I would choose my electronic filing recipients if necessary. Back to my RINs and my truncation for the tax ID numbers. Now we're back into the spreadsheet again, right where we were, but this time for our accounting contractors as well. So here it is. But again, notice first and last name is empty. I would have to key in the information for my contractors here, folks. I'm sorry. I wish that were different, but I want to be able to get ahead on it for you, where you can come in here and type in that information, go to next step, excuse me. Notice, and it would bark at me. If something was wrong, tax ID information was wrong or something, it would yell at me. And I just continue to click next until the messages or bars come up and read them and process them accordingly. Okay. Here we are back at the same window. Simply click next, choose either the complete or other options, check the options you're wanting. If you're required to e-file, maybe choose the least expensive option and print and send your own forms to your own contractors. Okay, and then go ahead and process them from there. It's no different. As I said, once you get past that initial selection screen, the process is exactly the same. Okay? All right. I am going to leave the webinar event topic